Yet what is the purpose behind finding those who can get to the advanced levels? Is it to kill them off? It could also be, but that is not profitable enough for them. My contemplation brought me to the opinion that the idea is recruitment, first and foremost, and then, if that fails, yes, disabling by whatever means. In a sense, we are Luke Skywalker, a prodigy like his fallen father that became Vader. Now, the Emperor in The Empire Strikes Back first wanted to kill Luke to eliminate the threat it could pose. Vader, however, convinced him that to recruit him was best, since he was powerful enough to ensure the next stage of the Empire would have a higher degree of power available to it. At a lower degree, we already saw the same machination in place, for example, in the hippie movements of the 60s and 70s. In the 60s, CIA and military operatives and relatives started bands and so-called spiritual movements that suddenly boomed into the youth culture of the time, generating a horde of what is denominated as hippies. Now, among all those hippies, some were just there by peer pressure. I was going to say beer pressure, because it was what everyone else did. But others were really discovering that reality isn't what they were taught, that they were not what they thought they were, and so on. So these were really, truly there for the discovery. These advanced in the levels of the hippie scale, so to speak, and came to the point of a decision. Either get washed away by the counterattack of the empire, or get recruited into it. How many music industry big labels had ex-hippies among them? How many big business corporations? Note that I am not talking about a formal recruitment, such as someone approaching them and offering them a deal. Not at all. I am talking about having a door opening for them, tempting them, and allowing them to make that decision. Then, they hope, Stockholm Syndrome kicks in, and they will join what they preached against previously. You see, to find out that reality is false in all its aspects and intricacies, and even to understand that there is a truth out there somewhere, yes, X-Files pun here, does not protect ourselves from temptation in that reality. Does not. This is very important to understand, because at the same time that we dig deeper and find more and more how reality is false, we are also, at the same time, being tortured, tormented, and being worn out if we aren't careful and mindful. That torment will play against us when faced with the open door that leads to integration into the empire or system, because it shows us a way to relief. And taking that relief will make you love your tormentor. Remember 1984, the novel? Winston discovered that the reality portrayed by the ruling system was false and started exploring deeper. Then he was discovered and tortured until, when provided with relief, he became a supporter of it, loving Big Brother. But that is not all, because Winston was not one of those who can see. He was part of those who got stuck somewhere. O'Brien, his torturer, was, however. He shows and admits on several occasions that he knows and even brags about how reality is whatever they want it to be. And how would a person like O'Brien ever join the party and enforce it in such a way? Someone opened the door for him, and he crossed it, much in the same manner as I am postulating that they do for those of us who they may see as powerful enough to serve the system, even if informally. So their objective is to make us all into a sort of O'Brien, torturing all the Winstons that we scoffed at for being blind and stupid. The system's religion is the worship of itself, the nightmare of many levels. At a baser level, nature, which is little more than an arena in which constant conflict is rampant, even without humanity being involved. A constant flight or fight, eat or be food, run or die. And then there are progressive other higher levels to that fantasy, all the way to the level of both so-called God that proclaims ownership and authorship over it all, demanding obedience and strict discipline, and the so-called devil that proclaims that God is unjust and that he knows what man needs and wants best, away from all the discipline. Is it clear that both these two, so-called God and so-called devil, are actually the same shadow divided? One represents good within the system, the other represents evil within the system. Yet both are part of the fantasy, and actually they are fantasy enforcers, for none of them point to truth, ineffable as it is. None of them are true good. Both are different aspects of falsehood. So, Matt, this is my contemplation on that question. I will just finish by reiterating a few points that are essential to be understood, as follows. Number 1. Just knowing does not guard you from temptations. Knowing gives responsibility. So be alert to yourself and realize your most internal temptation vulnerabilities so that you can be better prepared. Number 2. Fear is the mind killer, truly. And in this case, also truth killer, as it moves one deeper into the senses of the system and so makes us more vulnerable to it. Avoid, therefore, making a decision based on fear or motivated by fear. Number 3. If it speaks to you, even inside your mind, it is not true. Nothing of what we talk about here or elsewhere is ever truth in its absolute sense, because it is impossible to use language and still represent truth. It may point in its general direction, but it will never be it or define it. So I repeat what I said in other videos because it is so important. Truth speaks no words.